Something happened when CM Punk debuted at the WWE. From that time since, Trevor Lawrence has gotten hurt. Christian Kirk is hurt. The Jaguars lost to the Bengals with Browning as their quarterback. That guy.
All right, NFL Week 14. We have our guest panelist here all the way from San Bernardino. Jojo Weedy, he's going to be doing a great job with us. You know, he used to have a Twitter handle, perfect 36 for his 36 score in the ACT, and he did it twice. Mike, what games we got this week?
All right, Derek, so we're going to start off with the two big games of the week. Right off the bat, we've got to talk Eagles and Cowboys. And let's throw this to JoJo. What do you think, man? From the West Coast, what do you think of this NFC East showdown?
Well, first things first, I want to just say thanks for having me on. Big fan of the show. Eagles, Cowboys, I've got the Eagles. I've got the Eagles this time around. I think they took a tough loss against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. They're looking to bounce back from that. Cowboys, this is about the time of the season where they start falling apart. Let's be honest. So I've got the Eagles in this one.
God, Skip Bayless is going to be pissed to hear that from you. But tell you what, I think that the Eagles fall apart yet again in this one. I'm taking the Cowboys in this one, Mike. And let me tell you why, okay? I saw one of the most ridiculous posts on Eagles Reddit saying something to the effect of how they needed to start their backup quarterback over Jalen Hurts. Cannot believe that type of discussion is going on. Taking the Cowboys on this one.
Yeah, I saw that same Reddit post. We're not going to touch that, but Micah Parsons is going to have a game. Dallas surprises some folks and wins this one by 10. I'm not writing off Philly. I think that they still could be a Super Bowl team. They're just hitting that late season swoon. So Dallas for me. So here we go. We'll go to the next one, and this is the big one in the AFC. More of an AFC guy myself, personally. So we're going to go Buffalo and Kansas City, the rematch of the great playoff game a couple years ago. What do you guys think?
This is a tough one. Kansas City coming off a tough loss to my Green Bay Packers. Patrick Mahomes, is he still the same guy? It's tough to say. And then on the other side, Josh Allen and the Bills, they're having a tough season so far. They're 7-6, 6-6, 7-6. Not doing great this year. So I'm gonna go with the Bills. I think the Chiefs, some negative momentum at this point in the season. They're having a tough go of it. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Are we thinking maybe it's a curse now? The Taylor Swift curse? I don't know.
I'll tell you what, JoJo. We don't throw curse around here lightly. We only use that when it comes to CM Punk. We'll get there in a minute.
All right, you know what? I would take the Bills if this was in Buffalo, but this one's going to be played in Kansas City. Look, Kansas City just came off one of the rawest losses I think I've seen in the NFL in a while. Quite literally getting mugged inside of the 20-yard line with seconds left in the fourth quarter, and no PI is called. Now, look, there was probably 3 or 4 consecutive plays that had very questionable calls in that. And that only leads to extreme frustration in the locker room. They're going to take it out on Josh Allen in the Bills, but don't count them out. I still think the Bills have a legitimate shot to get to the playoffs. We've talked about how they have not been very good this year, and they've had their struggles. This needs to be a year where they really are making the playoffs if they are going to go to the Super Bowl and retain that team. Look, I think the Bills, don't count them out, but the Chiefs put it away in this one, get revenge on the officials in Kansas City.
Revenge on the officials. I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, Derek. If Buffalo loses this game, they're done. They lose too many playoff tiebreakers. They're getting too far back. So they're like backs are to the wall right here. This is it for them.
Mike, if they didn't, the Bills still have a legitimate starting quarterback, right? They still have their number one quarterback. Yeah. How many teams in the AFC can say that?
Yeah,
they're going to cannibalize themselves.
I don't come up with the math on this one, Derek. If they lose this one, they finish 10-7. They're still losing tiebreakers to a bunch of teams, and they're missing the playoffs at 10-7. So you're
also thinking that the Broncos are going to beat the Raiders in December or January whenever they play them. So
they will, but we'll get
look,
there.
It's not going to happen.
They will. I want so badly for Buffalo to win this game, but I just don't see it. I think Kansas City's taking this one, and I have a feeling it's a really good game, but Mahomes puts together a really good one. I think to go to JoJo's point earlier, I don't think there's anything wrong with Patrick Mahomes. This is what happens when quarterbacks' salaries get too big. You end up not having the same weapons. Kelsey's a bit older, and you're starting to see it looks a little bit more difficult for Mahomes when he doesn't have like all of these weapons at his disposal, as it would for anyone. With that said, he's still elite. I'm going to go Pat Mahomes in this one. The Chiefs get it done.
And I do sympathize with Mahomes. As a Packer fan, I sat through 4 or 5 years of Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropping touchdowns, missing blocks, doing all this stuff. I understand it's tough on him. I'm sure he'll be fine, like you said, Mike.
Yeah. MVS sounds like some terrible condition. California is a rolling blackout, but he's back. Okay, so third pick of the week. Since Dirk has already talked his trash, we're going to bring up the Broncos and the Chargers in an old AFC West showdown and Denver's postseason hopes hanging in the balance. JoJo, what do you got?
I've got the Chargers in this one. Herbert, I think Herbert might have the biggest arm talent in the league next to Mahomes and Allen. I love Herbert, but he's been really getting let down by his offense the past 3 or 4 games now. He's been getting let down by his weapons on offense. So I think this is the game they come through for him. Quentin Johnston, much maligned in Los Angeles, finally has a big game. Keenan Allen does what he always does. Eckler has a bounce back game. As a proud fantasy owner of Austin Eckler, I can personally attest he's been letting me down this season. So I'm looking for a bounce back game from him. I've got the Chargers in this one.
This is what I'm going to say. Broncos let me down last week when they went on the road and laid an absolute egg. You asked, Russell Wilson was not cooking. If anything, he was cooking something out of Josh Allen's, kitchen or something like that, because he was playing like Josh Allen, which led them to lose that game. I'm going to take the Broncos again this week. However, here's some stats to say why I'm wrong on this pick. Ever since moving to LA, Chargers are beating the Broncos 4 out of 6 times that they've played in LA. Now, at Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, back when Rivers was still around, there was not much of a home field advantage whatsoever. And when they went and played in the MLS stadium, not anything there either. So, look, there is absolutely some type of home field advantage that they're enjoying in LA now. And I'm still taking the Broncos on this, but those are the reasons why I'm wrong.
Oh, I see. So let's take a screenshot on Sunday of when the entire stadium is in orange in Los Angeles, because this is another Broncos home game.
That might be true, Mike. However, the stats don't show it. They actually are playing very well at home. And the other thing I'm going to say on this, if you want a side bet on this, if the Broncos do win, Brandon does not make it past Tuesday.
That I think that's definitely a possibility. I think they will probably can him fairly soon. And unfortunately, Mr. Staley, you're going to be toast because the Broncos are going to get it done. It's going to be a nail-biter. Andrew Catalon is announcing this game, which means it's going to have insanity. He is a lightning rod for insanity, so you can guarantee that. I will say this has my favorite showdown. It's going to be an absolute dogfight. Almost no one can test Patrick Surtain, but Keenan Allen might be the one guy who is going to bring the fight at Surtain all day. That is going to be a great showdown, but Denver gets it done by a field goal in this one.
Also, Mike, in this one, a must start for fantasy, Courtland Sutton. I think he's going to have a hell of a day.
He's been good. You know who would have a hell of a day? Jerry Jeudy, if Russ could ever see him on these routes.
Dude, it's rough. On those interceptions, he is so wide. If you go back and look at the tape, they throw that seam pass, and the safety's already covered. Like, he's already committed going to that before the ball is, like, even out of his hands.
Okay, so we're going to get to the final pick of the week. And if you're still with us, you are a special kind of YouTuber because this is the longest segment of all time. But we're going to make it good, I promise. We are going with the Jaguars going up against the Browns with some big postseason implications and a showdown that potentially features not Deshaun Watson versus Trevor Lawrence, but CJ Beathard versus Joe Flacco? I don't know. It could be anything. Trevor Lawrence is practicing, apparently, but we'll see if he makes it back. Jojo, what do you think?
Yeah, so this is going to be a candidate for one of the worst games of the season, which is saying something considering some of the matchups we've had already. Broncos Bears comes to mind, Patriots Giants last week. But in this one, I am going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that team's going to rally around the loss of their leader, Trevor Lawrence, especially with him still having a chance to come back this season. They've still got a lot to play for in the AFC. I think they're going to take down the Browns.
Hey, look at this. This is where I'm going with this, Mike. Okay. Flacco, in his first game as a Brown, plays okay, but ends up losing, especially with the performance in the fourth quarter. Falco with the Sentinels, okay, in their first game in the replacements, when they're using the replacements players, they're trailing by 4 with only a few seconds left to play, right? But then McGinty calls a passing play. Falco gets scared, changes it, running play, they lose in the final seconds of the game, okay? The point there. Replacements, Falco, they lost their first game. Here comes the turnaround. Falco, still calling him Falco, I don't care. Falco and the Browns turn around, and they couldn't have had a better setup here because if Lawrence is there, I make a different call. Browns won this one.
Wow. Okay. You're putting me in a tough spot here, Dirk, because I hate your irrational Cleveland Browns love with Joe Flacco as your quarterback. But
Falco.
Something happened when CM Punk debuted at the WWE. And from that moment, now the day after, the Jaguars very nearly blew a game. The Texans had to hit the crossbar on the field goal at the end of the game to lose that one. From that time since, Trevor Lawrence has gotten hurt. Christian Kirk is hurt. The Jaguars lost to the Bengals with Browning as their quarterback. That guy. So I am going to go with Cleveland pulling the upset in this one in a game that I think if CJ Beathard and Joe Flacco play, there might be like 40 total attempted passes in the entire game. And I'm going to go Cleveland in a like 16-13 ugly slop fest.
You're taking the under then.
I'm taking the under. And I'm going to plunge myself off of a cliff if the CM Punk prophecy does continue to come true, because I want the Jaguars to be good.